Welcome to the Redeemed Vision podcast, where we bring sight to the blind and freedom to those enslaved by our pornified culture. Here, we dive into hard but important topics, such as pornography, sexual identity, true freedom, real love, and living marriage well. Go deep with us as we uncover what redeemed vision means for each of us living in the world today. Come to know yourself, the power of redemption through Jesus Christ, the joy of laughter, and how to live in gratitude and wonder. This is Redeemed Vision.
Welcome to another edition of the Redeemed Vision podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pokorny. I'm the founder of Freedom Coaching. You can find us out at freedom-coaching.net. I encourage all of you who are hearing or watching this to like, subscribe, hit that little bell if it's applicable, and to enter into this. And just to pay some bills a little bit, no pun intended for our guest today. This is one of the partners that we partner with is Hallow. And for anybody who's been sleeping under a rock and not aware of what this is the number one app for Catholic meditation and prayer. So here you can find better peace, find better sleep, to be able to pray more, to deepen your relationship with God. It's a prayer app that offers guided meditation so we can grow in our faith. We can grow and go deeper in a world that is stealing so much of our peace. This is a great way to be able to go in and enter into that journey. So if you go to hallow.com/freedom coaching, you'll be able to get in there, get 3 months free. And in continuing that subscription allows us to keep doing some of the work that we do. So it's an honor to be back with you. I had the opportunity myself talking about finding peace to go on a retreat. There's an organization known as the Kingsmen. Mark Houck, who's made some news lately, and I was on retreat with him and some other very, very broken men who have experienced wounds from different things, sexual wounds, but other different wounds, identity wounds, and for myself, able to really go in and process through a lot of rejection wounds. And if you're anything like me, if you live in this world and exist long enough, you're going to experience rejection on some levels, right? And this has been some area, there's been a lot of hurt in my life, and able to actually go in to present this to the Lord in a specific way. And there's been tremendous lasting healing, I believe. And so it's allowing me, albeit imperfectly, to enter into back into life, right? Coming down from that mountaintop experience and be back with my wife, be back with my children, but interacting with them and others in a way that I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to hide anymore. And I think that's been critically important. So I want to just encourage you in your own journey, right? As we are striving to live out this redeemed vision, to see the world as he sees, right? Just remembering again that, everything you've gone through, there's a reason and a purpose. And will you let him into that space to allow him to do that? Really important. So, and again, we believe that, everything is redeemable. Nothing's wasted. He's going to use it all. So with that said, I want to introduce you to Bill Donaghy. Some of you may be familiar with Bill. He is an instructor, international speaker. He's a specialist at the Theology of the Body Institute, doing much incredible work, important work. He was actually here in San Antonio recently. Got to see him present to a bunch of catechists who are involved with marriage and family life, and did a tremendous job of presenting, giving clarity to a lot of the issues that are troublesome in our world. And Bill has been doing a lot of work in evangelization since 1999. And obviously is finding a home at the Theology of the Body Institute. And so I am honored and privileged to have Bill on the Redeemed Vision podcast. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, brother. It's great to be with you, Steve. Thanks for inviting me. I'm getting pumped for our conversation. I have to say that your intro music got me really pumped. I feel like I just had a cappuccino or something.
Hey man, that's what we're like, ready to go. Life's a mission, right? Life is worth living, as Fulton Sheen would say, right? And so if there's a way to get you as a guest on the podcast, alive and well, but also those who are hearing this, to enter into this mission, this excitement of life that he calls us to, then hey, I'm so glad that able to do that. So honored to have you here, and I want to start out with I'm going to give you a softball question, but maybe it's not a softball question, because we throw around the term beauty in many areas, right? And I think in a world that is confused about everything, shall we say, this is let alone another issue that's confused. So a two-part question to start off would be, what is beauty? And then why are we as human beings so attracted to beauty?
And how many hours do we have for these two questions?
we're just, I don't know. Take as much time as you need
let's
to.
start at the shallow end of the pool and just wade in slowly. Okay.
Amen.
Great questions. Questions I'm all about. I mean, questions that I've been pursuing since I was a teenager in many ways intently, and which has followed me throughout my whole career as an educator. So beauty, I mean, there's a great line that I always quote from Walker Percy, the Catholic novelist who died, I think, in the 70s. Walker Percy once said, "When you're 10 years old, the longing stirs and it never goes away." And I think what Walker Percy meant by that, is when we're first pierced by beauty, when this otherness, capital O, comes into our lives through what we see, smell, taste, hear, and we get haunted, we sort of get pulled out of ourselves. That's what beauty is. Beauty is God. God is beauty with a capital B. That's the quick answer. It's literally the divine permeating the human, the eternal coming into time, cloaked in colors and sounds and smells. And so beauty is God. God is beauty. Then, and so it's no wonder, Steve, that we're drawn to it, because it's God. So we encounter capital B beauty, God, through lowercase beautiful things. And anyone who's viewing our conversation right now, if I said, hey, give me a list of 10 beautiful things, you'd quickly fill it up, and you'd probably keep going, of things you've encountered in your life through your senses that are beautiful to you and that have kind of followed you and sort of drawn you and also shaped your heart. So yeah, because he comes to us through all those things, through our senses. So the beautiful things come to us to pull us towards the capital B beauty. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about the slippery slope here and the razor's edge of beauty, but I'll stop right there. There's your elevator.
No, that's really important. And I want, like, you're bringing up and you brought up a very important concept, and I'd love to plunge into this. And it's the phrase I would use, and I think you maybe articulated it slightly different, was this idea of being wounded by beauty. Right? If we're made for beauty, and it's supposed to, I mean, shouldn't it satisfy us, right? But the more that we encounter something, and again, we're dealing with philosophical concepts that people over many years have tried to articulate language to it. But when we come to an encounter of, in a certain sense, the beauty itself, or as St. Thomas Aquinas, for instance, right? He falls dead. He's dead for like 3 weeks. That's what people think. He's in a coma. Comes out of that, you know the story, right? And he says, "Take everything I've written, burn it. It's all straw." Thank God they didn't, right? We needed a Council of Trent. But when we have this overwhelming experience of genuine beauty, like, there are no words for it, and it hurts. So yeah. Can you plunge into that pain for us?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite things to reflect on and experience personally. To actually get pierced by beauty, though, to be haunted, to be hungered, to be drawn by it, it does necessitate that we're open and receptive. We can sort of shut the door on the transcendent and call things cute or pretty, right? But if our senses are wide open, and Pope Benedict XVI has this great line. He says, our senses are not to be discarded, but open to their widest capacity. Pope Benedict. He says that in Spirit of the Liturgy, this great book. If we're really open, as a saint, poet, mystic, artist is open, you will be destroyed by almost everything. And I think the reason it hurts, and it does, I mean, what's the first thing we do when we encounter beauty? We sort of groan, we're kind of like, sometimes even tears,
Yeah.
It's because beauty is a reminder of an other world. C.S. Lewis says it so beautifully. I'm sure you've heard this quote from C.S. Lewis, Steve. If you find in yourself a desire that cannot be fulfilled in this world, the only explanation is you're made for another world. I'll say that again. If some of your listeners haven't heard that one from C.S. Lewis, if you find in yourself a desire that cannot be quenched or fulfilled in this world, the only explanation is you're made for another world. So beauty is the signpost of the other world. That's why it unsettles us. It makes us ache. And when you taste that, though, you're like, oh, I want more, capital M, more. And so you're on the path. You're on the way of beauty, as the church teaches, the via pulchritudinis, the way of beauty.
You're hitting on something from my graduate studies. There was she has passed away. Her name's Barbara Morgan. She was affiliated actually in the writing of the current catechism. And one of the things she was deep and like welling up that would come up from her, and she would say, God is the more, right? And I'm like, when I first heard that, I'm like, settle down. But and I think that's especially like, but the more that I plunged into that, if we're using that term here, right, the more it began to awaken these desires here. But I think where I'd love to see if we can take this conversation even more, Bill, is we all experience wounds in our life, right? And I think when we encounter, if we experience wounds, especially sexual wounds, right? Which our sexuality, the gift of sexual attraction, is supposed to drive us into communio with genuine relationship with others. And when we experience, so we said, the bitter fruit of what it wasn't to be, what it's not designed to be by God, then I think there's a closing of our heart, especially because shame can get in there and disrupt all that, right? And then when something that's genuinely beautiful comes up, the response from some people, because they've been so deeply wounded, is anger, is a response that, like, you're hitting in a very sore spot, and I don't want to go there, right?
Yeah.
Where have you seen this played out? I don't know if you're willing to go there, maybe even your own life or people that you've worked with here. What's been your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a good insight, Steve. And I think it's every one of us struggles with this. It's when we're, we all have this capax Dei, or this capacity for God or the divine in us. We have this massive gaping hole in the center of our chest that can only be filled by the infinite. And so I think if we suddenly lose the sight of the transcendent, lose the other, and start turning into this relationship of gimme, 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 I want to take this for me, I want the quick fix, then the thing that is literally beautiful becomes appropriated, and then we kill it. Like, it's like taking the forbidden fruit off the tree, and so suddenly it instantly begins to wither. And so we get angry at the thing, right? The alcoholic who loves to drink then suddenly starts hating it. So it becomes this love-hate relationship. The porn addict who loves beauty, be it feminine or masculine beauty, men or women drawn to porn, they're drawn from what is beautiful, right? So alcohol, wine, God gave wine to cheer man's heart, right? That's scripture. The beauty of the body in Genesis, behold, it is very good. But the moment we switch and say, it's mine, it's my precious, right? We kill it, we lose the transcendent light in the thing, and then we start to hate it. It's almost like we're saying to the thing, you lied to me, which it didn't lie. It was a signpost pointing to more, but you changed its name and you said, you're going to be my God. And inevitably it can't. So we start hating, men are deeply addicted to porn who go deeper and deeper and harder core porn, start hating women. It becomes violent, right? It becomes violent. And that's because it's almost like there's this betrayal and we feel cheated, but it's not the thing's fault. We just idolized it. We should have kept going and iconized it. We should have kept going up the ladder, Jacob's ladder, all the way up to God. So
Yeah.
mercy
No,
on anybody.
oh gosh, yeah, totally, absolute mercy, and you're hitting on a spot of my own story of I know that in the throes of my own compulsion with pornography, especially in high school and even to college, there was a blaming that rose out of me. If you didn't look that way, if you didn't dress that way,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have this problem. And
Right.
it's obviously it's a lack of ownership of that the problem's squarely on my shoulder, right? And and being frustrated, right? What do I do with this, right? And when we're never given the idea that maybe, just maybe, there's an element of the good in what we're trying to seek out, in a way that it'll never be fulfilled, but there's something good there. Can we actually gently, really gently crack open what is that space? What is the goodness there? And can we play around in that space a little bit, right? And when we're talking about this issue of especially of sexual attraction, right? That sexual attraction is good, but when it gets married with shame, then it colors the entire. It's like a beautiful canvas painting, right? Like we have here, and I took black paint and I just threw it all over, right? Oh, right. So
the desecration.
It's total desecration of it, right? So is there, I don't know, and again, let's see if we can get personal here, Bill. Is there a space where you recognize, it doesn't have to be that story specifically, but was there a space where where you were wounded by beauty from the negative side, kind of where we've defined it here? And then how'd you make it your way out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can go back to my teen years and the college years early on, and this is going back now a few decades, Stephen.
Last year. It was last year.
Yeah, right. Where I felt that frustration, and it, by the grace of God, it was never a deep addiction to porn, but it was more like this addiction to a kind of fantasy world, an over-romanced, over-spiritualized world. And I was making demands, so to speak, that, you're supposed to satisfy me. And I just kept hitting that ceiling. And I was isolated. I lived in this kind of fantasy realm. And this is almost in John Paul II's Theology of the Body. This is like a guy getting stuck in original solitude and never moving into original unity. So not stepping outside myself, not being willing to enter into messy relationships where you see the real, and you can smell it and taste it. It's not always pleasant. It's just, it demands things from you. So I remember those aches, and it was finally just getting out and getting into the mess of human life and relationships that kind of opened me up and showed me all these false schemes that I created that would never get me into that original unity, that sort of embodied, incarnate encounter with life and with people. What broke me out was in the early 90s, I was discerning in the seminary. So I went over the river from New Jersey to Pennsylvania and studied at St. Charles Borromeo Seminary. And this was an awesome experience because it got me out of my own head. It got me into not just studies, but into the fraternity of other men, my brothers, and all of us with our own wounds and our own junk, and some deeper than others. But that just revealed to me the real, what I mean? Like the real, and the demands the real makes on us, of being vulnerable, of just being honest and sharing your ache and saying, I thought this would satisfy, but so and then the whole rocky road of discerning out, the Lord calling me out of the seminary, doing mission work around the world for a few years, and then encountering my future bride, which was the deepest invitation into my heart and soul through this person. So the sacramentality of marriage for almost 20 years now has been this school of love that it shows me the beautiful mess that this life can be, the beautiful mess. Yeah.
Amen. And I, by the way, I didn't even thank you so much for that. And Bill, I didn't even mention to all those who are hearing this, we're having just a conversation with Bill Donaghy, and Bill, you have a beautiful wife of nearly 20 years and 4 beautiful children. 4, correct? I have that number correct?
Yep. Well, yes. One in heaven, 4 on earth. Yep.
Awesome. Sounds like you need another intercessor like we do. We've got 2 on earth, 1 in heaven there, so which is good. Yeah, and one of the things that we see, especially with clients that we work with in freedom coaching, is this idea that they're very much trapped in their head, and you had that perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going to St. Charles Borromeo, going to seminary, and you were in seminary for how long?
I got my bachelor's in philosophy, so it was 4 years.
4 years, good.
So
I
was
did
at the
3 years
halfway
undergrad, 1 year major. So here we
Nice.
are. So there is life after seminary, and you can take this boy out of the seminary, but you can't take the seminary out of the boy. So here we are.
Oh, I still drink from that well. I still drink from that wonderful well. In fact, I was just texting with a classmate of mine who also discerned out, and he's married. And we were just texting the other day. So that was 25 years ago. It's amazing.
Did he get married?
He did. Yeah, he's married with a child as well now. And we both thank God for the formation. I mean, if any young man's listening to this episode right now, it's a win-win. I mean, you go in and discern. If you feel the Lord putting something on your heart, it's not written in stone until like the bishop lays hands on you. I mean, you're discerning. And if you stay in, awesome. If God calls you out, awesome. It's a win-win. You always gain something incredible from the experience of discerning a vocation to priesthood, or for our sisters, religious life. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, no, I didn't even give you a question yet. But you're hitting on another important theme here. In fact, like you, your friend, myself, right? In a certain sense, especially as we're speaking to men, and one of the difficult elements of masculinity, whereas in every single person, I like to say, is formed in the womb of a woman. Every male is formed in the womb of a woman, right? And then psychologists say, in order for healthy masculine development, there has to be an appropriate divorcing from mom, and psychologically, in a certain sense, and clinging to dad. It's not to say that we're not going to be around mom or anything like that, but there's really an identification with dad, or something gets missing, right? Something gets interrupted, right? And I think, especially with the wealth, shall we say, or a detriment of fathers in the world, our natural progression is to move from being a son and a brother to being a husband and a father. Yes. In no matter what walk of life, and then should we say by extension, it's also to be priest, prophet, and king. Like we have our dominions, things like that. We're supposed to take care of, just like an ordained priest is supposed to do that. So, can you speak into? I'm literally jumping over one question into another, because you brought up two really important points here, and this is the first one here. This demand that beauty puts on us. Right, you were drawn out from the good of seminary into a great good, into evangelization, and a great good into that. But the weight of those things, I assume, I mean, in order to get there, right, there's a cost that has to be weighed there. What were those elements of beauty that, shall we say, drew you into seminary, into period of evangelization? You're still doing that, and then into this vocation of marriage and family life? How would you define that for yourself?
Yeah, these are great questions. I would say, well, I feel like the Lord, whatever our discernment path is, our vocation that we're discerning, the Lord's going to take us. You know, we are human. We are body and soul composites, right? We have a bit of heaven, a bit of earth. You know, kind of dancing within us, and our life can sometimes be we err too much in the flesh, or we over spiritualize. So I think the Lord's path for each of us, no matter what our vocation is, he's gonna help us find that balance. You know, I think I entered into seminary over spiritualizing things, and I had skipped over some really important things as a teenager and a young person, as a young adult, as far as the human. My parents divorced when I was 15. And that deep wound, you know, my mother stepping away from the family, my dad raising my brother and I sort of went in at a moment in my life when I should have been going out in relationships and learning things, you know. So I started to sort of bank a little too towards the spiritual. So in the Lord's providence, he brought things into my life that brought me back into the body, so to speak. I'll put it this way, like, the way of beauty and the way of the cross, they both come together in Christ. Okay, the way of beauty doesn't mean that you over spiritualize and romanticize things. be it vocation to priesthood, religious life, or marriage. We can certainly do the same thing over spiritualized marriage. There's a number of, classic Steubenville marriages right now, devout Catholics who know TOB, who are now getting divorced. Why?
Yes.
Because they over spiritualized. So the Lord's like going to help us to find that equilibrium through whatever means necessary, because we are a body soul composite. We're in the world, but not of the world. But this way of the cross and the way of beauty coming together. You cannot, we say this at the Institute quite a bit, you can't get to the supernatural by bypassing the natural.
Yeah.
You can't get to God, right, by bypassing humans. We pass through the medium of the flesh and the beautiful mess of life. We can't go too far either side. That's the problem. It's the marriage of the two.
Yeah, no, and let me, if you'll permit me to drive a truck through this theme, right? That over spiritualization. Oh gosh, over spiritualization. I think it's killing the soul of Catholicism in a certain sense. I mean, it's not going to murder it. Catholicism exists and all those things, but especially you mentioned. I mean, I'm a graduate of Franciscan. We've seen the fallout of those. Like, I went to Franciscan, everything's perfect, right? Or I know theology of the body, I got it here, right? Oh my God! I mean, I was known as Mr. Theology of the Body on campus, and I've got it all together, right? Getting married, the wounds, that I have opened up personally in my marriage to my wife, and then if we stay in that space, if we stay in that headspace, right? And that's going to open up my next question in a minute. But if we stay in that headspace, then we're in for a very rude awakening.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're not Cartesian dualists. For those who aren't aware, Cartesian dualism comes from Rene Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Or as he said to that bartender many years ago, if he asked him, "Do you want a drink?" and he said, "I think not," and he disappeared. So, that's a little philosophy humor. So, and we must realize that's going to be messy. The diapers, dude, changing the diapers, having changing the metaphorical diapers in our marriage, the things that we end a marriage, the baggage that we carry in, and my recommendation to anyone hearing this is, as quickly as you can, recognize those wounds in yourself, and if you're recognizing them in yourself and you're recognizing them in your spouse, they're not a weapon. You're not to beat yourself up, and you're not to use them to crush your wife or your husband, right? You're to enter into, it's been said, right, this sacrament of marriage thing is about walking in the woundedness of each other to heaven. And there's beauty, God, there's Lord, I praise you. There's beauty, there's great beauty found in that. Is it going to hurt? Yes, it is. And so it is, first and foremost, be gentle as you enter into that. Be really, really gentle, especially if we got this weight of shame that we've never really worked through or dealt with. God, help us, oh Lord. But then the other thing is I want to enter into your wound, and I want to sit in that space with you. It's the notion of compassio, right? The heart that in a certain or suffering, right? Misericordia, the heart that gives itself for another. So how? So within all that, because we've been living in a fantasy world, and I think a lot of the movies, a lot of the music that we hear, and there's something beautiful there, but it's become a mere fantasy. And when reality comes in, a lot of people can't handle it. So for a man, this is my question for you. For a man who was stuck in your head for, I don't know, X amount of time, what was it that pulled you out of that?
Well, I can speak to my encounter with Rebecca. I'll start there. My wife, because leaving the seminary was sort of this unforeseen thing. Like, I didn't know the Lord was going to do that. The end being ordination was still 3.5 years away or something. And I was fine with, like, I know, God, you have me where you want me right now, and I'm not going to worry about the future, right? You're present with me now. God's in the present moment. But when he shook me up and I realized I was going to be a preemie, premature, I was going to leave Mother Church, the seminary early, like, whoa, like, oh, okay. that was really hard. I mean, talk about raw wounds and aches. Like, Lord, I thought you wanted me to, what am I? Who am I? And I remember distinctly, driving away from the seminary. It was February 28th, 1998. I think that was the exact date. Driving away in my Eurosport station wagon, packed to the gills, and just went up to New Hampshire and lived with my brother for a little bit on the coast. Worked at a rose garden, pitching manure and listening to the waves crashing against the shore, and just like, now what do I do? But the Lord had to do all kinds of work. It was fitting that my first work was after seminary was just like digging up, trimming roses at this beautiful estate and pitching manure and looking at that natural, death into new life being broken, and all this, all those analogies came to life, and the sea and the rocks and all that taught me so many things. But I met my wife 2 years after, and she was working as a missionary at a soup kitchen for the homeless. So I was doing mission education, traveling around the world, experiencing the life of missionaries and documenting it for children, to teach children about the mission. I was a little bit still up here, but the mission work, third world countries, the smells, the sounds, the difference, all of it breaking me further and further into the real. Then coming back to the States and meeting Rebecca at this local soup kitchen. She's the first person I laid eyes on, and I just was so struck by her in her overalls throwing garbage into a dumpster. Like, talk about the real. And then serving a meal for the homeless, and just the smells of it, and broken beer bottles and used condoms and needles scattered on the sidewalk in Kensington, Pennsylvania. Just all the brokenness of humanity. And here's this beautiful young Irish lass ministering beautifully to these people, knowing them, getting down on the sidewalk next to a drunk or a poor person who's just out of their minds, and she's ministering. So Rebecca really pulled me out of myself and into that sort of mess of our human nature. And man, what a whirlwind, getting me, as I say, like out of my head and into my heart, and then into my hands, like in service. Like, you got to get out and touch and learn and look at faces and learn names. Don't just know the theology up here, but it has to hit the biology. You've got to get it out. So she really helped me, and continues to do so, incarnate everything I believe.
And Bill, was it not her beauty that drew that out from you?
Ding, 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 ding. Yes. Yes. Right? And here's another one for you, a little zinger. Rebecca in Hebrew means captivating. And I was captivated. I could still see like the flash of her blue eyes the second I first looked at her. I'm like, whoa. And she opened the door for the kitchen and got me in. And she'll share too. Like we kind of had that moment at first sight, like, oh, hi. That lingering hi. And then unfolding over a couple of years of getting to know each other, and then eventually marrying. But yeah, beauty piercing me. And then seeing beauty in the people that she was ministering with. I remember serving meals, and she was telling me about Leo, this homeless guy who would come to meals, and he was a poet, she said. And she says, he writes poems on scraps of cardboard and paper that he finds, and he's really good. And and then meeting another guy who called himself Rambo, and he was a little crazy and band on, and he would talk really fast, but you look at them and you just start falling in love with people. The young family that's just down on their luck, and they got 4 kids, and you're bringing bread and food and soup to their house in Kensington, and there's roaches all over the house, and it smells, but then you're like, gosh, this is life. And you start falling in love with people. It's just such a salvation coming about through beauty that isn't this ethereal, disembodied thing up in the stars, but is in it. Like, that's what Mother Teresa fell in love with, I think, when in her service in Calcutta. She just started to fall in love with this image of Jesus as the broken and beautiful one all around her.
Bill, what you are describing and articulating as an example is what we want to extrapolate and expand and blow up in the work here of Redeemed Vision, Vision podcast, right? This is Redeemed Vision, right? Because and I think this is especially where people need to go. Yeah. After this podcast over, all of you turn it off, walk outside, breathe, take in what God has given us. Obviously, finish the episode, okay? And then afterwards, right? Enter into that. And you use a super important word, right? It's breaking me into the real. And I think this is especially where all of us, we need to get into the real. And the world tells us that it's simply about being in our heads, but no, it's here. It's the embodied experience. And when we experience the bodies of the other, we're not simply experiencing a body, but it's somebody, as Freddie Mercury would say, somebody to love, somebody to enter into their world. And because they are unique and unrepeatable, it's endless. It's endless. And we have the eyes to see. If we have the eyes to see, I mean, you got me going here, Bill.
I know. Preach it, brother.
See it. Right? If we have the eyes to see it. Can anybody find me somebody to love? There, you're welcome. All right. So, you're welcome. And please don't turn off the podcast, peoples. All right. So from this, right, it really is that movement from if we're being trained from our culture, this isolation into ourselves, a movement from this, from first we have to be liberated from that. We have to experience the freedom from whatever that is, right? Maybe it's shame, maybe it's bad body image, maybe it's whatever, a blindness in a certain sense, to a freedom for how can I pour out, how can I live out in the real this thing. And I think this is, if we're going back to that, the trouble in marriage, the difficulties that the couples have. Take the blinders off. What are the ways, and be honest about it. What are the ways in which I have not entered into reality, the real situations with my wife? Like, so I'll be honest, I have trouble. I want to go to sleep. I don't know about you, Bill. I work a long day and I want to go to bed. And it's this time my wife is done working all of her stuff. And then, and there's somebody here I can talk to about all of it, right? And so I'm like, I just want to go to bed. Dang it. So I'm not perfect on this. I have a long way to go in this journey, but if I would let it happen, so all of you pray for me, Bill, pray for me. Like, if I would let this happen, I think this is the message God's giving me in adoration, even this morning. Enter into that place. I'll take care of it. You're going to be tired. Be tired. It's okay, right? I'll take care of the rest. And there's going to be beauty even in the midst of complaints with me or complaints about the world or blah, blah, blah. And the space that I'm going to be able to open up with her. I think it's a beautiful thing. So I want to, one thing that you've shared in with the little bit that we have remaining, I would love for you to share the story, Bill, because that notion of getting into the real, you've had the opportunity to work with inner city kids, those who are financially, in America, we say financially down on the luck or impoverished, and to break them out into the real. Can you share one or two of your experiences of how you've done that and the effectiveness of that?
Gosh, I'm all over this. I'm all over this this question and this theme. And there's something that's been, I just got to say it out loud. The metaverse.
Oh, yes.
Meta.
Go there, please.
Oh, man. So Mark Zuckerberg's, moving Facebook into this new Appalachian Meta, pouring so much money into this. We're going to all be in the metaverse. We're going to work and play and shop and be in the meta. And now he's got to lay off 11,000 people because it ain't working.
And may there be more.
I am so happy. I mean, I'm not happy people are losing their jobs, but actually I am kind of happy they're losing their jobs working in the metaverse. The antidote is not to go deeper into screens, but to get rid of them. And that's where real life is. So I'm all about this re-engaging the real. So when I've worked with young people over the years, and I was working before social media, Facebook and YouTube, all that blew up, and after, and in both instances, I could certainly see the slide into the Narcissian pool of social media and just kids losing their identity. Some of my tricks are getting out, class in the grass, get outside, get a project or a work where you get your hands dirty. I've worked with inner city kids. And when I get them outside and, all right, sit in a circle in the grass and everybody close your eyes. When you've got 10 different sounds, open your eyes again. And you see their little fingers, their little hands going up. And they're starting to hear, wind in the trees, a cricket, a bird, a plane overhead, someone's shutting a car door. And you see these kids all of a sudden, their eyes open. This dilation happens, and everything changes. They start to be a little more human. They start learning eye contact again, and they don't have that like frenetic, going through the shakes of where's my phone? Where's my phone? It's hard work, but we have got to do this, Steve. We are literally losing our humanity. We are losing touch with the world and others because we keep grabbing these little, these anchors. They're not anchors. They're weights that are pulling us down into deeper isolation. Okay, social media, not really. Communication, kinda. But we're getting so lost. Real communion happens in and through the body. There's no other way. There's no other way.
Amen. Amen.
These are great tools. These are great tools to communicate, but they can't give communion. Real FaceTime always trumps FaceTime. A real face is always better than someone's face for screen. So we have to like cut the cord, be free, and that means that we engage the real, which is beautiful. Back to the main point of our chat. The beautiful wounds us, haunts us, pulls us, reminds us of an other world. And it's the only way. I mean, that's the Dostoevsky quote I love so much, that in the end, beauty will save the world. It's not the beauty of an app. It's not the beauty of the new iPhone 37, whatever it's going to be. No, it's the capital B beauty. Try it. Anybody watching, anybody who's struggled with stuff, guaranteed there's a lot of addictions to screens. Let it go intentionally and start acclimating to the real rhythms of the world and other people, and watch your blood pressure go down. Watch your ability to focus increase. Your breathing will be better. You'll sleep better. You'll be in touch again with who you are and with other people. It's kind of that Lady Antebellum song, right? Hello world, how you been? It's good to see you. I had to sing because you sang.
Got it, dude. Hey, I love it.
Back to reality.
I love it. No, so many thoughts are flooding me right now with what you're sharing. Sister Timothy Prokes, she's spoken at some conferences in the past, and one of the lines that just hits me like a sledgehammer is, we've traded real presence for virtual absence. And is it no surprise, Bill, that we're so lonely, right? We're this aching. We want like somewhat. We're screaming out with our attitudes and our behaviors using media, but it's leaving us bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt, and bankrupt in many other ways. So the way forward, sadly, from Redeemed Vision podcast land, is turn it off, right? Don't do it yet. Wait until we're done, and then go. But so I guess a principle, like especially if you're a father or a mother, you're listening to this, like, okay, how do I do this with my kids? It's, again, there's something to be teaching them moderation in all things. I think there's something to be said that, right? There is about as much as we can get them into real activities. It's where, like in the work I do with Redeemed Vision, and we do with our team in freedom coaching, and teaching them about the various arts. Teach them about music and literature, and get clay out and create real figures, right? I want to interact here, and even if it's not perfect, because perfection is the enemy of the good, right? If we're in there, so make a mess of things in the right way here, right? So gosh, there's so much here, and one last comment here, Bill, and then I'll let you answer this, and I have a final question on this segment.
Sure.
Jean-Paul Sartre once said that hell is the other, that the other person, and I mean, again, he was also married to Simone Beauvoir, if I'm pronouncing that. Both of them basically hated humanity. Let's make this clear. And I understand, if you're in a very tough marriage, it colors things and makes things very, very brutal here. And whereas, and ironically, Bill, years ago when I went to Lourdes, I think it was Lourdes. It was in Lourdes. We stayed at the hotel named Sartre. Really ironic. Ooh. That's a side note. Very interesting. So hell is not the other. The other is actually where we encounter the other person. So for someone who, besides like turn it off and get outside, and that would be the principle, I would say, spend it more time offline than on. If you have to be online, that's fine. For someone who's been so entrenched by this, and we can say maybe a compulsion and things like that. 1 or 2 steps to be able to move forward from that. How, like, this is,
Yeah.
I mean, gripping this hard on this. How would you help
Yeah.
them to navigate, to start that journey?
Yeah. Great questions again, Steve. Thanks for asking them and getting me digging deep too. I've been teaching a course at the Institute called The Way of Beauty, Theology of the Body and Art for 7 years now. And I can't tell you, even this week, we had another course with Father Timothy Gallagher, which was great. And some of my old students were there. And I get this a lot, like, Bill, that course changed my life. And that is so, I am destroyed when somebody says that. I'm just like, praise Jesus. I'm just a nerdy Star Wars kid from New Jersey. How did this happen? But it's not me. It's the Holy Spirit coming through what I've said yes to. So the thing is, the course, The Way of Beauty, is this encouragement for people to enter in to reality and into the great cosmic stream of human life that goes all the way back. I say to my students, enter the great conversation, right? Capital G, capital C, the great conversation, which is these existential questions and aches and longings for real beauty that every human being's ever had. So I encourage my students, look, I share from this palette of poetry, great literature. We look at great art and sculpture and architecture. We go all over. We play around in the playground of humanity that's thousands of years old. And we're reading Hopkins poetry, and quotes from Chesterton. We look at Walt Whitman. We're all over the place, and Wordsworth. And I just say, like, what do you like? What do you love? Start building these this treasure chest of your own heart. Maybe you'll stumble on an artist that you love. Maybe it's Pissarro, one of the Impressionists. Maybe it's the High Renaissance or some contemporary artist. Get in there, enjoy yourself. Did you ever hear Mozart's Requiem? Listen to this thing, or you just taste and see everything.
Yes.
And because we're being so consumerized, it's just like Starbucks, McDonald's, and Wi-Fi and Facebook. There's so much more, and we have such a heritage. So I tell people, build around you this treasure chest of just all good things. And maybe you've never read poems since high school because you had to read them in high school. Try again, read a little something and see what it does and sit with it. Or I love to smoke a pipe. I was just smoking a pipe with 2 buddies. The whole ritual of that and the smells, there's subcultures of things, good scotch, good Irish whiskey. Find little rituals that give you a pause in your day, and they're not screen based, and you're just sitting on your porch and you're just reading a book by C.S. Lewis and you're smoking a pipe. Or ladies, you're having a delicious glass of wine and you're looking at poetry, or you're looking at paintings by the Impressionists, just like sitting there. That's not snobby. That's not elitist. That's human. And all these little windows are windows into heaven, and they're beautiful. And we should know them. People used to know these things. People used to be able to recognize different art schools and pieces of music. They were cultured. That's not snobby. We have to reclaim that. Go back in and taste and see all these wonderful expressions and articulations of God coming through people. It's just fun. I just want to say that again. It is not snobby. It could become snobby or upper echelon, but don't do that. Just enjoy. Yeah. Yeah. Just have fun with it and find out what you're drawn to, what your proclivities are towards, and celebrate it. It's pretty awesome stuff. Amen.
Okay. So much to comment here. I'm gonna make this as concise as possible, and then one last final question on this section.
Sure.
I like, as you're speaking, something in me is just crying out, "Awake, O sleeper! Awake! Come out of your grave!" Right? Enter in, because all as much as good as technology. I mean, Bill, we don't want to knock technology too much. It's allowing us to connect.
Absolutely.
Right now.
It's a tool. Use it as it's meant to be used.
Yes. But then how can I use those things to get into real conversations with real people in real time, face to face? There's something about body to body contact, being present here in a healthy, holistic way, because to be human is to be in the flesh, to live in the body, right? And to experience those things. So to be human is good. So to anyone who's hearing this, like, I've been trapped just in technology and things like that for forever. Part of it's turn it off. And if there's that craving there, go outside, take a deep breath, take 5 deep breaths, slow down and listen. And then very important, because we're all so flipping busy, I'm crazy busy. You're busy, right? And the schedule and all those things. To intentionally put this in your schedule. This is my clock out time where I can recreate recreation to enter back into, which requires slowing down. And then what happens, Bill? What happens is we begin to wonder again. We begin to reclaim. We get to reclaim childhood again. And what does the master say? You cannot enter into the kingdom unless you become like a little child.
That's it.
That's it. It's good. It's good. God, it's good.
There's a whole section in the course, the Way of Beauty course I teach, where we talk about that return to childhood. And let me throw real quick before your final questions or whatever.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Father Patrick Schultz. He's been my chaplain for my Way of Beauty course, and we're just have a great friendship. Praise God. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. And
that's where I'm from, Bill.
Is it? Sweet.
Yeah.
Can anything good come from Cleveland? Yes.
Can anything good come from Nazareth? Yes.
You follow me, right? I say that about New Jersey because that's where I'm from. Anyway, Father Patrick Schultz and I guess a month and a half ago, we finally launched, after years of dreaming about it, a new podcast for the Institute called The Way of Wonder. Bam. So you just dropped that, my favorite word. And so The Way of Wonder drops every Tuesday. We're up to like episode 9 or 10 now. And all we do, Father Patrick and I, each week, we surprise each other with some great art. And so far, it's mostly been paintings, images, but it's wide open. We surprise each other, and then we just gaze at it. And then we open it up and talk about it. And what's this doing in your heart? And it's been so fun. People are sharing in the comments things that kind of have, Way of Wonder. So it's like, wow, #wow. What's your wow moment this week? And we're trying to acclimate people back into what you're saying, Steve. This slowing down, seeing again, tasting again, hearing again, and by means of The Way of Wonder, rediscovering your humanity. Oh, so good. It's been so fun.
And by extension, when we discover our humanity, then we discover the humanity of others. And whereas in the world right now, the world needs this so much. This is all redeemed vision here. The world needs for us to rediscover our humanity and the humanity of others, because otherwise this fraying, this fracturing that's happening, these walls are going to continue to rise and continue to spread us apart. And then we're done. So this is why the world needs Christianity. This is why the world needs a Catholic ethos to see as we're called to see, as God calls us to see this here, right? So, so good. And that podcast, and now, great. Another one to listen to. Thank you, Bill. I'm in. I totally. So everyone check out The Way of Wonder. It's tremendous. And so here's the final question on this part. And again, you snippet it at it. You're throwing these juicy tidbits at. You obviously teach at the Theology of the Body Institute, right? If someone were to say, hey, heard this thing, saw this weird guy on the Redeemed Vision podcast, he was talking about it, right? Not just Steve Pokorny. What would you say to them to kind of push them over to the edge, like to actually come in person, to spend time at Black Rock, I don't know what Black Rock Retreat Center, and just take that 5 days, like, oh my gosh, 5 days off of work, or I can't be 5 days away from my family. What would you say to them?
Okay. Yeah. This is weird. I just had the image from Finding Nemo. Remember when the pelican had to save Nemo and said, "If you want to live, hop onto my mouth." Remember that part of the big pelican?
If you want to live.
Yeah. If you want to live, you got it. It's an experience like no other. I've been teaching there for a long time now, and the week-long courses are my favorite thing in the world, because when else in your life do you get a chance to step away intentionally for 5 days, be surrounded by intercessory prayer, daily mass, adoration, incredible insights from John Paul II, brought to you by the teachers there, people from all over the country and the world, meals, sharings, laughing, walking around the grounds that are gorgeous. It's Amish farmland. You get so enriched in every way, emotionally, spiritually, physically. You just get supercharged. And people walk away like, man, that was a little taste of heaven. And when they come back, it's like students come back and they're like, I feel like I'm coming home when I take that turn and go up the hill. And I can't say enough about it. And it's weird because I teach there, I'm coming an employee, but it's a return to life, because it's the communion of persons. It's we're all here. There's no shame. We're all on the same page. Let's go. You sit down for a meal, and in 5 minutes you start crying with somebody you just met like 5 minutes ago, because you're like sharing your stuff and you're moved by beauty. I got to stop because I'll keep going. It is so life-giving. Absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it.
I want you to keep going, but yes,
Yeah,
our time is
it's
valuable.
great.
But I've only been blessed to go. I was the first in the first class many years ago. You and me being there. Oh gosh. And the Institute has developed so much more and so many more courses. And Bill, you have added so much to that. And I know countless, not countless, but lots of people who have gone through the Way of Beauty course and other courses there, and it's impacted tremendously. So thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you to your yes in allowing, especially Our Lady, to form you in her womb, where the source of shall we say the source of beauty is to be found her Son Jesus, and to birth us into a new humanity, which is just a redeemed humanity. That's what it is. Right? So,
Amen. All grace. All grace.
So, with all of that said, we're going to do something completely different here. It's kind of becoming a staple of the work we're doing in the Redeemed Vision podcast. So, just so people know that you're not just this caricature, that you're a real person, and you mentioned a very key phrase early on that's going to come into what I'm about to share. We call this the 12. So these are 12 questions. Don't overthink them, off the top of your head to a very real degree. Just to kind of get into humanity and kind of a little fun, lighthearted thing, but then we'll see where these go. So, you ready?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Number 1. So 12 questions. Number 1, peanut butter, crunchy or creamy?
Creamy.
2, if you could be any Star Wars character, who would you be?
Oof.
I know this
Luke
is hard.
Luke Solo. I just do it. I would be Luke Solo.
Got it. Okay. It's like if Winnie the Pooh and Snoop Doggy Dogg ever merged together, it'd be Snoop Doggy Dog Pooh. Anyway, that's a side note.
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. All right. 3. What's your desert island food?
Oof. Pecan pie.
Oh, I just had some 2 days ago. I'm right there with you.
It's the best.
4.
It's the best.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
Follow up, what kind?
Well, see, I would actually go Irish Stout. I love Murphy's Irish Stout. So, but in the beer world, I would probably go for a nice Pilsner. No IPAs.
Lovely.
No IPAs.
5th, what is your most memorable Christmas gift that you received growing up?
Oh man, my BMX Huffy Pro Thunder with the star rims.
Nice. Did it have the thing sticking out of the back wheel so people could ride on it?
No, I didn't have those. I went alone. I drove alone. That was my stallion, my wild stallion. It was just me.
The wild stallion, fantastic! Right near Philly, the wild stallion, baby. I'm thinking Bill and Ted. We are wild stallion. All right. Anyway, sorry. Number 6. What is your bucket list country or city?
Ooh. Do I have to have never been there, or can I have been there already?
I will leave that to you.
Okay. Scotland, the Highlands.
Very good. Love it. I love haggis. Bring it on. 7. Just put ketchup on it. You'll be fine. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, this is always tricky because I want to say flying, but I also need like impervious to cold because I want to fly really high and I would get really cold. But I'll say flight.
Well, move to Texas, and we'll take care of all that cold for you. You're welcome. Okay.
Yeah.
8. Have you seen The Chosen?
Yes.
Okay. Impossible question. What's your favorite episode?
Oh shoot.
I know.
Okay.
Impossible.
I'll go. The woman at the well made me really cry. The woman at the well, the Samaritan woman.
I need to have a conversation between you and Christopher West on that episode, because that's what he said also. And you guys do unpack that one. Oh, yes. Wow. So here we go. Okay. Number 9. Besides your name and date, what do you want written on your tombstone?
I instantly thought of something my dad always jokes about. I told you I was sick. Or wipe your feet.
Good. We'll get out to the rug and honor there. All right. 10. If you had to pick only one favorite saint, who is it?
Oh, John Paul II.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to build on that. 11. Then if you had to pick only one quote from John Paul, what is it? Your favorite one?
Oh my gosh. One
I
quote
know.
from
I know.
John Paul.
Impossible question. Yeah. One quote.
Oh my gosh, Steve! You realize there's 7 trillion quotes of JP2 in my
Yeah,
head.
I know. But I didn't say it was easy. We're getting deep.
Give me a sec.
And while Bill is thinking, folks, I'll give you something to think about. A peanut is neither a pea nor a nut. Discuss.
Oh, thank you. Okay, you got okay. I think, and I'm paraphrasing, it's where he talks about the eternal, I'm paraphrasing, the eternal love song that is in the heart of the Trinity is transposed into the visible world in marriage between man and woman.
Oh God.
Like that is just, and I want to sing that song. I want to be able to sing that song to my wife and do it well.
And to sing it well. Oh yeah. Oh, I receive it. That's beautiful. Last question. Why be Catholic?
Eucharist. I want to eat the Lord. I want to eat beauty itself. And the only way is through the Eucharist. And that's the consummation I long for. And I praise Jesus that he has brought me into a place where I can be Catholic and consume him in the Blessed Sacrament. Amen.
Amen. Bill Donaghy, you are a gift. It is an honor to have you here as a guest on the Redeemed Vision podcast. If people want to get to know more of your work, where would you recommend that they get in touch with you?
Sure. And thank you, Steve, for hosting me. That was a lot of fun. And the 12 is cool. I affirm the 12. I would say, I jumped off social media for obvious reasons. After someone's watched this episode, you know why I reject it utterly. But we are on YouTube. So I would love you to go on YouTube and go to the Theology of the Body Institute YouTube page and track with the Way of Wonder episodes that drop every Tuesday now. Yeah, that would be cool to see people jump on.
Wonderful. Bill, an honor, a privilege to have you here. You and your family are in all of our prayer and all in our prayers and all the work that you are doing. God bless you. And for all of us at the Redeemed Vision podcast and for Freedom Coaching, an honor to have you here. We encourage you to check out freedom-coaching.net for more information on the work we're doing with helping to break free those men and women who have an attraction to pornography, to break that permanently, and also unchaste behavior. And then also that's where you can find out more of our works, our writings, this podcast here, and also any of the other good work that we're doing. It would be an honor to see you. So until next time, may you remember that nothing is wasted and everything is redeemable. God bless.
The Redeemed Vision podcast is an outreach of Freedom Coaching. To learn more, check out freedom-coaching.net and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and MeWe.